All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in. I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Tricia Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Hey, Yub Cubs, and welcome to episode 56 of Fangirls Going Rogue. I am Teresa Delgado, one of your hosts, and with me, as always, are my fangirl best friends who I just got to spend time with, which was awesome. Tricia from Fangirl Blog and Hyperspace Theories. How are you?
I want to go back to Disneyland.
Me too. We had so much fun. It's ridiculous. I actually have this picture of Tricia wearing a chef's hat, making a goofy face that I have not posted on the internet anywhere, but I feel like I should.
Yeah, you probably should, because that's as close as I get to cooking.
When somebody that I know that cooks very well, because she made me all kinds of awesome food when we were in California, Sarah from Skywalking Through Neverland. Thank you for introducing me to kiwi, by the way. I have had a kiwi every day since I was in California. Every single day. I'm not lying.
That's awesome. I remember the first thing you did when you came to my house was look at my fridge and go, whoa, you guys have a lot of food. And that's because I cook all the time.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Well, I have to say to both of you guys, happy birthday, because it was, a couple days ago now.
March 10th.
5 days ago. Yeah. It was great. And thank you to everybody that tweeted at us and Facebooked us and all of the stuff that we got. My phone was blowing up all day. It was awesome. It was really, really cool. Yeah, so thank you. And it's fun getting tagged and everything with Sarah.
Yes.
Because it's like getting double birthday wishes.
I know. It's awesome. Like people who know you wished me happy birthday and vice versa. And it was super cool. And I had a Mary Poppins practically perfect in every way day. So yay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and we had somebody who's going to tell the story about Sarah walking past the Mary Poppins dress. At California Adventure.
Okay,
it's like the funniest thing.
I'll set it up, and then Sarah, you get to do your soundbite.
Okay.
So we are walking through California Adventure, and we pass by a shop window that has all of the dress shop items in it. And in the window is one of the new dresses, which is a Mary Poppins themed dress, as well as a purse that's a penguin purse, which you guys know I had to have. But it's this whole Mary Poppins ensemble. I knew it had come out. I thought Sarah knew, so I had never shared it with her. So we're passing by it. I'm like, hey, no big deal. I've seen this before. She apparently hadn't seen it before because she made this noise.
I look in the shop window because I love looking at the dresses, and I went, oh my gosh, and I ran over there.
Yeah, she was like pawing at the glass. I want it so bad. It was quite entertaining.
And because it was my birthday week, guess what I got for my birthday?
All of it?
I did. I got the dress. And then now we, Teresa, we are purse buddies.
We're purse buddies because we both have the penguin purse.
Yep. And then I ended up getting that little hat barrette. Because you can't not have, it's the Jolly Holiday dress. Like it's white and red and it's beautiful. And so, yeah, I got the hat. And then just this week for my magic show, I made my mom and I made a like capelet, those little capelet things. They're like, and it's red. And when we finished it, I needed a hanger and the Mary Poppins dress happened to be sitting right there. So I put the capelet on the Mary Poppins dress hanger and it goes perfectly. So, Dapper Day's coming to Disneyland in April and you may see me in my lovely Mary Poppins ensemble.
That's very cool. And also, I don't know if you know, Sarah, but her universe released 2 colors of like little boleros.
The red?
It's red and black.
Yeah. I saw that. And blue. There's a blue one too.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, let's jump into the news because, Sarah, you got to do something else really cool. You got to go to Mark Hamill's Hollywood Walk of Fame celebration on March 8th. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Oh, that was super exciting. That was a random Thursday. And I think, they always schedule these Hollywood Walk of Fame star ceremonies to coincide with certain events happening with these stars. And so with the release of The Last Jedi on digital / coming out now on Blu-ray in a couple weeks, they decided to give Mark Hamill his star, and his was like the 2,620th star or something like that on the Walk of Fame. And he's going to get a great spot right in front of the El Capitan Theater. So next time you ladies are in town, we'll have to go visit it.
Nice.
Sounds good to me. Quick question, though.
Yes.
The stars have to pay for their stars, right?
Do they? It's either the stars or
Yes.
maybe the studio,
Or
suppose.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like a free thing where they're like, hey, here's a star.
No.
It's like,
right. Yeah. I think it's through the city of Hollywood because I believe the mayor was there and other people who weren't Harrison Ford or George Lucas or Mark Hamill. So I didn't get their names. But it is a paid thing because, once again, you're changing streets in Hollywood. You're adding things. You're closing off streets depending on how big the ceremony is. So yeah, you do have to pay the city something.
I'm pretty sure this was a Disney / Lucasfilm event. They had I saw a lot of faces from the Disney press, the media
Yes.
people, publicity, and obviously you had pictures of everybody who was there.
Yeah. Before you let me get into the day a little bit. Richard and I got there super early in the morning, and there was already a line forming that was going in front of the El Capitan Theater. And luckily the lining up people earlier in the week in the Facebook group had decided to kind of do an informal line meetup. So we met up with them and we ended up being number 15 and 16 in line. So when they led us to the barricades, at about 9:30 a.m., the ceremony was scheduled for 11:30. We were in the front of the barricade, of this barricaded off area. And we were going down the line and everyone was kind of lining up in front, and I could have gone down a little further, but all of a sudden I saw in front of me, there was all these tents set up with chairs, and in front of where I was chairs with Kelly Marie Tran's name, Billy Lord's name. These are name tags on the chairs. Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson. So I was like, all right, I'm staying right here. And my vantage point of the actual ceremony was going to be a little behind and to the right of it, but I wanted to be where these stars were going to be sitting because, who wouldn't want to, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you can pull it off, if you can get there, get there.
Exactly. So Richard ended up going a little further down to where the Hamill clan was seated. So his section had a bunch of Mark Hamill names, including Mark Hamill, who never ended up actually sitting there because he stayed up for the ceremony. But so he went over there and got a better vantage point of the ceremony, and I stayed where I was and got some FaceTime with Kelly Marie Tran and Billy Lord when they showed up, and Kathleen Kennedy was acting like a boss. She had her coffee and she was talking to all of us, and Rian Johnson was just being amazing, fanboy Rian Johnson, and knowing that what it is to be a fan, he came up and he signed things. And even Howard Kazanjian was there as well, whom I actually didn't know what he looked like, but some of the people behind me were like, Howard. And I'm like, wait. And they gave him Indiana Jones posters to sign. And I'm like, huh. And I kind of surreptitiously looked at my phone. I was like, wait, this is Howard Kazanjian, who of course was the producer of Indiana Jones films and I believe Return of the Jedi as well. So, that was pretty amazing. So as the ceremony was about to begin, right out of the El Capitan Theater came Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and George Lucas. And you could hear kind of the crowd, start to chatter and then start to cheer. And there they were. It was Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, George Lucas. They were probably 20 feet away from me. So that was exciting to see them all. And while I've seen them all in person, I haven't been quite that close to Mark Hamill and George Lucas. So that was super exciting. And then just getting to watch Harrison Ford throughout the ceremony was fun.
I'm surprised that barricade held you back.
I know, right? Well, it was funny because Richard was focusing on the ceremony actually happening. But so what they did for the ceremony is they had George Lucas come up, say a few lovely words about Mark Hamill, and then Harrison Ford came up and said a few words about Mark Hamill. So while George Lucas was up there, Harrison Ford, he did not have his sunglasses on, which was nice because you could see his face totally. And he actually took out a piece of paper from his pocket and was looking at it. And it was like his notes as to what he was going to say for Mark. So he was preparing. I loved that. And then after that, as the ceremony kept on going, George Lucas and Harrison Ford were backstage-ish. I say backstage, but I could clearly see them. And at one point there was helicopters, and Harrison Ford looks up at the helicopters and was like, and then he starts talking to George Lucas about them. So I'm sure they were talking about the make and model of helicopters at some point, which was fun. It was amazing. Have you guys seen the video of the ceremony?
I've seen pieces of it.
Just pieces.
Okay. Pieces. Okay. Yeah, Richard and I put together a video of the ceremony from our vantage point, which you can see on the Skywalking Through Neverland YouTube channel. And it's fun because we put in some of those fun meet and greet moments before the ceremony as well. So like when Kelly Marie Tran and Billy Lord were escorted over to our section, they were about to sit down and I was like, "Hey, Kelly!" And she looked up and she was like, started to get verklempt, like, cause all of us were like saying, you know, Kelly. And I was like, "Oh, Kelly, can you come over?" And she like came right over to me and we took a selfie. So that was cool. I know. It was amazing. Of course, when she started coming over, all the people behind me started pressing in. So like, oh, it was fun, but a little bit scary. Because all the people, you know. Anyway.
Trampled at a star ceremony.
Exactly. So
that should be the title of the video.
It was, but all I could think of saying was like,
"Oh, it's so nice to meet you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for coming." It's really funny to hear the video. I didn't know what to say. What would you guys say if you, or have you talked with Kelly Marie Tran like at the opening?
No, we were never close enough to any of them to do any of that. Oh. But if I was around her, I'd probably be like, "Your Lego minifig is awesome."
Oh, nice. I'm sure she would love that.
I would tell her she's rocked like every red carpet she's done this award season.
No joke. Her Oscars dress was like the best.
Oh,
yeah.
It was amazing.
Well, I should have tweeted you guys, or I should have asked you guys.
Should have said, "Hey, can you help me?"
Yeah. I was so glad I did do that because the night before I wasn't sure if I wanted to because just Hollywood and traffic and the crush of the crowd. I wasn't sure I was up for that, but Richard and I decided to go early and beat the crowds, and it totally paid off.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So also last week, we got news about the live action Star Wars TV series that will be coming on the digital streaming service that Disney is going to have. And the person developing that series is going to be Jon Favreau. This brings up a lot of stuff that we have to talk about. I do right off the bat want to say I do really like Jon Favreau's work. I like what he did with the Jungle Book. I'm excited about The Lion King. All of that said, in Iron Man, all of that said, there's a lot of stuff to chat about. And Tricia, I'm going to let you take us into it, and then we can kind of discuss it a little bit.
Because we had just come off last episode 55, talking about D&D. The guy, and I can't remember their names because I don't want to remember their names. the guys from Game of Thrones, and so. Last Thursday happened to be International Women's Day, and there's been a lot of discussion about getting women in charge of storytelling. And so essentially there was a mixed reaction on the media, not probably what they really wanted. And it was also shareholder day for Disney.
Yeah, there was a major shareholder meeting, which is what fueled the announcement.
Yes. So these come out when they're going to do their thing. So, you know, I have to say a lot of the stuff Jon Favreau's done that a lot of people like. This is not it's not shocking news, but a lot of people still feel like it's a kick in the teeth because they really want to see somebody different than straight white men telling stories about Star Wars and running them. But they did, in the announcement, with the statement said that they would be working with a lot of different writers and directors. They made a statement about diversity that at least there's a recognition that the people are not necessarily happy about this. So I know for me, I'm just like, okay, I feel like they're not listening, especially on the heels of all the announcements. But I believe that this discussion was probably in the works for a long time.
Right.
Because they started out, the early hires were, get a J.J. Abrams and then give films and stories to different voices, to younger voices. And now they seem to be going to, well, we need names and people with experience. So that's why you see someone like the D&Ds or Jon Favreau, because he has so much experience in TV and working in Marvel early on. So he understands the shared universe. So there's a lot of reasons why he's probably a very comfortable choice for Disney to do something like this, because he knows the system. He knows their whole process. He understands a shared universe. But then I think a lot of people feel like, this is a person who's been in the system. He's going to hire, the same thing's going to happen. He's going to hire his buddies. There's already people in there that he knows that are all going to want to work with him. And how are they going to really address the diversity and inclusion goals that I think a lot of their fan base would like to see? So I'm going to bring up the inclusion rider that was mentioned by Frances McDormand in her Oscar speech when she won. That's now been kind of making the rounds. And essentially what that is, it's asking actors and executive producers and directors to bring in this inclusion rider, which is essentially an initiative that says, if you bring me onto your project, you will commit to hiring a certain amount of diversity in your crew and cast, or however you're going to do it, but commit to something. And that's kind of what I'd like to see Star Wars do, because they still haven't, like, the statement with the announcement still doesn't say we're committed to a certain goal. It's like, well, yeah, we might bring a person of color. We might bring a woman into the group, but there's no commitment yet. So I think, in our discussion group, our Facebook discussion group, I felt like there was, there were a lot of people really excited. I know Teresa was, and there were a lot of people who were just like, whoo, wow, okay. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a very polarizing thing, but I think if you have good, healthy discussions like we tend to have in our Facebook group, which is one of the things that I love about it, you get to hear about other people's points of view in a way that's not condescending or attacking you because you have a different point of view, which is really, really nice. I do think you bring up a really good point, Tricia, about, some of these discussion and these hires have been in the works for a long time. And that's one of the things that we just don't know. And I would actually really like to know this. I would like to know what their process is, who they're looking at, like, what is your group of people? Because part of me feels like things we don't know is maybe they had some people that were diverse and were women or minorities or whatever, and that turned them down. Maybe we don't know. And for me personally, I can't jump on attacking their decisions and whoever it is that's making them. We also don't know who's doing that. We don't know if it's Kathleen Kennedy. We don't know if it's Story Group. We don't know if it's a whole group of people.
Well,
I think
it's not the Story Group. Whatever people believe, because a lot of people go to that, it's not the Story Group.
No, it's not.
I mean, Matt Martin and other members of Story Group have come out and said, I didn't even know that these people were being hired. And I know enough from doing different things that they've all talked about that. It's not the Story Group. These are really high level decisions that are getting made.
Right. So maybe Kathleen Kennedy has a group of people that are up there in that level with her that, we don't know, obviously. And so I would like to know more of what's going on in the background, as far as this stuff goes. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get that. I have no idea. But I agree we need inclusion. We need women, and we need them in all places, in front of the camera, behind the camera, all that stuff. We need diversity as far as, race is concerned. Black Panther is obviously a great example of that. And I think what also matters, though, is that we need people that can be good for the Star Wars universe. And just because someone is a woman or just because someone is a minority doesn't necessarily make them the right choice for Star Wars. But Star Wars, with how big the name is, and the franchise having as much influence as it has, it could do wonders for the inclusion writer. I don't know if the movement is the right word, but the inclusion writer thing. And Star Wars could really help push the inclusivity stuff forward if they would commit, like you were talking about.
Yeah, having watched it long enough now, I know that there are a lot of people who were hired into the storytelling process who were, women of color, and, she has Kiri Hart in there. Diana Williams just left.
Yeah. Do we know why she left?
I think they were all on 5-year contracts.
Okay.
I'm just speculating, but I know Kathleen Kennedy came with 5 years, and Diana Williams, this was shortly before 5 years. She went to a really awesome job doing, a VR type of work. They just did an announcement, I think, on Deadline. It was like a big top level position. So it could be a move up, but that's, definitely a voice that's not there anymore. That was really, her push has always been vocally on Twitter about getting different people in to tell stories. So what she championed never really happened. And Kathleen Kennedy does not have a good track record hiring women writers or women directors. She's done like an amazing amount of movies. And how can I say this? White women specifically, when you're talking about inclusion and diversity, tend to get called out for not seeing everybody's point of view. They see they call it the white feminist problem. And Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling have been kind of in this problem right now recently with perception of only being J.K. Rowling only being a white feminist, and Kathleen Kennedy is kind of, if you watch the growing unrest out there, there's that same kind of wave where is she really championing people? She's made very different statements about, well, we don't want to put someone in too early, and then no one's coming to me. This is specifically for women. Like, they don't even know that they can go to people the way that men have been taught by movies and everything else. Men are taught by the experiences they see in stories that they can just go try to get things. And that feeling of that you could just go attack something, or having the confidence or the connections, the people to say, can you help me? That doesn't exist for women, because a lot of times they can't even get in the boys club. So to say that the women haven't even called, they don't even know the people to get necessarily through the door. So Ava DuVernay, who's director of Wrinkle of Time, and Lexi Alexander both expressed, like last year when there was a talk about getting different women in, that they were interested in Star Wars, and they both have recently publicly said that they aren't interested in that universe. And I think that's an interesting
They've said that now?
Publicly, in the last month. Yes, in the last. So that says to me that they're expressing that they don't want to be part of Star Wars because maybe Star Wars doesn't feel welcome to them as creators. So yeah, you never know. But I would think with as many writers and directors as they've hired, that it's telling that they haven't brought in an executive producer, that they haven't brought in somebody.
Right. Well, hopefully, Dave Filoni in the Q&A, I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but for the Star Wars Rebels Q&A mentioned that, he's heavily influenced by the women in his life. Hopefully Jon Favreau is the same. We don't know, but I know he's done many stories that have appealed to many people. I mean, Iron Man 2, even the Jungle Book. So maybe he has more people he can talk to with different experiences.
Teresa, have you seen Black Panther yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
I think if you just look at the difference in the story, it's not that it's a better story. It's just a different story from a different perspective. And it's hard when you look at a lot of people that have really come from a position of privilege and that life has given them a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And you compare that to how someone tells a story from they really lived a position where they're in oppression. And a lot of Star Wars is telling stories about oppression. It's not to say that you can't tell a story about oppression, but sometimes I think you tell a different story if you're outside looking in on it. So to see different stories and different points of view, if you have the same type of person, they're just affirming their version of Star Wars, and it won't ever. It's a big galaxy. It could be so many things. Yeah. So
it's like their worldview, different worldviews.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So I think, just Black Panther felt different. It just felt different, and Wonder Woman felt different. They just had a different vibe. And so Star Wars is going to need to not stagnate. It needs to open up itself to see. And that's what I think George Lucas's intention was. Mm-hmm. And I actually think I believe that that's Kathleen Kennedy's intention. But when it comes down to stories being created, the directors and the writers are the vision. And it doesn't matter who is there in the mix. That J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson created the movies that they created, and it's their vision that's getting enforced. It all comes down from the top. Even there's proof data now that women and people of color hire more diverse in their crews, and they tell more diverse stories. It's just a fact. It's a data point now that they've studied.
Wow. One thing to say about the whole difference between men and women, this is random, but I think it applies. I notice, even Richard and I, when we're out on a walk, when we cross a busy street, we approach it differently. He will see a car coming and start walking and expect the car to just pass, but he'll start walking before I do because he thinks that the car will just either slow down or will just keep on going, whereas I wait till the car has fully passed and then start walking. And I feel like I'm giving the car deference, whereas he's taking charge of the road. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think it's funny because I think that could be really true. But in my case, I'm one of those people that I'm like, fine, just hit me, whatever.
That's really funny. Wow. Okay.
As a traffic signal engineer, I always push the button.
I do too, but I push the button and I wait for it, And if it's not the little white person, it's the red person, then I don't go. Mm-hmm. But if there's not a button and it looks clear and I have the right of way because I'm in a crosswalk, then do it.
Well, there you go. I know that's a random thought, but it just kind of illustrates the difference between.
No, it is. But it's all kinds of things. I mean, I notice that I operate differently than some of my coworkers that are male at the Lego store. I operate with little kids in a much different manner than they do, or the way that I talk about Star Wars is different.
Yeah.
And things like that. I mean, it's just the things they go to. They go to the vehicles all the time, and I'm talking about the minifigures that are in sets or what the set can do. It's just really interesting how our brains work. And to talk about or speak to Tricia's point, we hire diverse or we do things differently because our experiences are different.
Yep.
If you're a minority or if you're a woman. And, I even noticed that in my teaching and the way that I approach my different students. It's a life experience thing. And
Yeah, I get it. I mean, even creatively, like I love drawing flowers and women and flowy dresses and things like that. And when it comes to any kind of ship or technical, like, cars or planes, I hate drawing that stuff or painting that stuff because it's just, it's too much hard lines, you know? And there's certain people who absolutely love those technical drawings, and it's usually mostly men. So yeah, it is weird how our brains work.
When I went to get the characters and the artwork created for my own personal novel, I went to a woman to create the character images because, and I could tell her like, this is what the character's like. And like, it all came out perfect, just like talking about emotions. And then she draws a picture. I'm like, oh, the emotions. Then that was Magali Villeneuve, who's done some great Leia artwork as well. And then when I wanted the ships done, I went to Jeff Carlisle and, you know, and because they have completely different strengths. So, you know, that's how it is. I mean, not that a woman can't draw a ship, because like Amy Beth Christensen has done some incredible designs for ships and different things for Star Wars Rebels. But, you know, like my favorite stories in Star Wars Rebels the last couple of years have been Nicole Dubik, who also does My Little Pony. Because I liked that she did. I just felt like some of them were the Hera-centric episodes where I felt like Hera, like, and all the characters worked together and just how everything flowed with characters. And then other people will be like, oh, my favorite episodes were whatever. And it was just because all the Easter eggs. And I'm like, Easter eggs, I couldn't give a psh about Easter eggs and stuff. And people are like, oh, the 40 Easter eggs. I'm like, who cares? But
that's Richard.
That's how, because everybody comes to a story with something different.
Yeah.
So,
well, I just have one note on Jon Favreau that I want to bring up. And that's the fact when I was at the Jungle Book press conference and he directed that. So he was there and he talked a lot about making of the Jungle Book. And one of the points he touched on a lot was the music and how he really thought about that as a director. And of course, with the Jungle Book, he is referencing the original 69 Jungle Book where the music was a big part of it. But in Star Wars, the music is a big part of it. So I'm hoping, just by learning from that press conference, that he will be taking the music into account. And so that's my my positive point for the day.
The music's like a co-star in Star Wars.
Yes.
So it should just get like a character acknowledgement.
It really should. Character discussion in the future.
Yeah. Best actor, John Williams.
Yes. Exactly. So I just wanted to bring up that point.
You do know that there is a music-only version in the Blu-rays for The Last Jedi.
I have heard of this.
Yeah, I'm really excited
I'll be
to see it.
Yeah,
Yay.
I'm ready for that.
Woohoo.
Well, moving forward a little bit and talking about The Last Jedi really quickly, the novelization for The Last Jedi written by Jason Fry is actually at number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. And we obviously aren't going to go into the book and stuff here. You can hear about that other places. But I have read like the first, 10 chapters or so. And holy crap, he did a great job.
Did you read the acknowledgments?
I heard your name's in it, Tricia.
There's quite a few podcasters in there. So that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a tweet. Tricia, you're in there. BJ's in there. What is it? James Jawa?
Yep.
He's in there.
Yep. So quite a few people that that was sweet. I was not expecting that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, congratulations.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
Jason is a really, really good guy. And I'm so excited. I don't think anybody has worked harder in writing Star Wars than Jason Fry. He started like in Star Wars Insider, and I don't know what, he has like 18 gazillion books now. But
wow. That's amazing.
All right. Well, as we spoke about earlier, all of us, including Sandra, got to go out to California to see the Star Wars Rebels finale at the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. And before we get into this discussion about Star Wars Rebels, keep in mind that we will be talking full spoilers about the end of Star Wars Rebels. It was awesome getting to see everybody. We had a ton of friends there. Just like basically everybody we know was there, and it was picture bonanza.
Yes.
As
It
soon
was
as we walked
raining.
into that theater, yes, it was also raining, which was also fun. Not, it was raining and cold, but yeah, we got to see the screening of the last like 3 episodes, and the last 2 are an hour all put together. And we also got to do this really cool Q&A roundtable with like 7 other podcasters. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But you guys, how was it getting out there, being there, all of that stuff? I got to stay with Sarah, so it was awesome because I got to play with rabbits.
Yeah, you also got to see what it's like to drive in LA.
I did.
Was
I
that
got my
fun?
hair cut in LA. It was really cool. Yeah. Yay. So Tricia, what was your trip like?
It was just fun to see everybody. It felt like we were all a family, that we had been all part of this animation fandom for a long time, and we got to go because the Clone Wars we didn't get to really say goodbye to,
No.
right? And this felt like, okay, like we get to go to high school graduation for Star Wars Rebels. I don't know, or I guess that would be the best thing. Just like an ending, something where you're like, okay, we've accomplished something. And then I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And I thought it was just amazing.
It was. And you know, you make a good point about getting to be there when something's finished and getting to feel that sense of accomplishment. And you could feel that from Dave and from the cast and from everybody that was there. It was this just, wow, this is the end. But it was just an amazing end. I don't think there was anybody that was upset, or if there were, I just tuned them out. I was just like, whatever, because it was the best ever.
Well, I loved watching Amy Ratcliffe, who hosted the discussion afterwards. She could like barely talk.
Well, I don't have words, so that's well, I'm glad we're doing a Q&A because I need it, and I don't think I'm alone. So let's get started. So this isn't just me crying.
And Taylor Gray, who plays Ezra Bridger, he looked like stunned.
Like stunned, yeah. Like he was like, what did I just see?
I don't know. I have so many questions.
Wait, they had a kid?
Yeah, well, Vanessa was the same way. Vanessa's reaction was the same. It was just like, what? Huh? You know, and when I got to speak to her afterwards, she was just saying, I said, so how do you feel? And she goes, good. Like, I need to process. I'm kind of trying to quote her exactly. And I was like, so like you felt after The Last Jedi? And she's like, well, no, not as much processing, but I definitely need to see it again.
Oh. Yeah.
She just got blindsided. And I said, well, hey, does Freddie know that you guys had a kid? And he goes, well, he will on Monday.
Oh, did she say why he couldn't make it to the screening?
No. And, you know, what my interpretation is I know that he does not enjoy going to conventions. He doesn't enjoy doing these kind of things. He likes to be at home with his kids. The convention circuit and these press things are more of his wife's jam.
Okay.
Than his. So I think he goes to the things that Star Wars says he has to go to.
Okay.
And, you know, so I think it's more of one of those things. And not to say anything negative about Freddie Prinze Jr., because it's not. It's just he doesn't really like being out there as much. And I can't blame him. I mean, he was out there as a teen heartthrob. You know, he probably had enough of it. Like, to be honest.
Right.
Enough of us fangirls.
Nice. Wow. Well, let's before we get really into the Q&A, what I think we should do is talk about these final episodes. And we posted in our Fangirls Going Rogue Facebook group and asked what you guys thought of Star Wars Rebels. And there's some amazing responses on Twitter and Facebook. So we're going to let your comments kind of fuel our discussion on these episodes. So I want to start out here with Maxim Van Scoy's comment. And he says, I think Rebels has done an excellent job expanding the universe, and it really feels like an essential piece of the Star Wars story. Also, the prospects of a new animated show have me so excited for the potential stories that they could explore and the opportunities they have to tie everything together, from the prequels to Clone Wars to Rebels, the new trilogy, and even the EU. Overall, it was a fun, emotional, mythological, action-packed ride, which is everything Star Wars should be. And try to say that 5 times fast.
You did good. Did you do like your lip exercises before you started?
No, but I'm very good at sight reading. So
that was good.
In music and in talking.
In music and in talking.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to take Matt Clifton's here. He says, wow, 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 wow. And then he continues. It was wonderful. Totally was not expecting that epilogue. Completely floored me. Jason, spelled Jacen. Tano the White. Wow, man, I need the season 3 and 4 soundtracks and a coffee table art book. Anyways, I'm really going to miss these characters. I hope whatever comes next is announced soon. An art book for Rebels would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I fully endorse that.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I like what Maxim said about this really feels like an essential piece of the Star Wars story. You know, they've really done a great job of making animation, which a lot of people look down on, into something epic, really.
And the music felt to me more like it was really running into the original trilogy. I don't know. That's just me from experiencing it, like at Sarah, because you're the person who would know more than any of us, but it felt very much like we were in a New Hope era with the music.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the music, even though, you know, there's scenes of strife, felt more hopeful at the end as well. So I agree with that. And I will be doing some more analysis on the music. I have to watch it a couple more times because when you first watch it, you're just dealing with the story. And yeah, I need to concentrate more.
So Amanda Starling said, first, I need an Ahsoka movie now more than ever. Second, I need a novel connecting Ahsoka to Luke because I am adamant that Luke's knowledge of the Jedi and outright views of the Jedi had to come from her. And 3, Sabine and Ahsoka need their own show pronto.
Okay, so let's talk about this. A novel connecting Ahsoka to Luke. Because that's how Luke knows more of the Jedi. What do you guys think of that?
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, because Ahsoka is not a Jedi. She turned her back on the Jedi Order. So, now...
The crazy thing is that George Lucas, when Ahsoka first was introduced, I mean, we knew this from the Clone Wars, he said Ahsoka had to die because she's not in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh.
But this shows how much you can actually get a character out from under their own service to another character's story. Like people say, oh, well, that has to happen. And I've seen that other times where like, well, Yaddle wasn't in the other movies, so she must be dead. And that's not Dave Filoni's take. His take is, because people are like, oh, well, there's a line that, you know, like Luke's the only Jedi, and they take all these things really literally, but everything's coming from a character's point of view. So he essentially took this story, and this is my favorite thing about it, is he connected it to things we knew, and Ahsoka connects us to the Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars connects us to the prequel trilogy. But he didn't ever let Ahsoka's story run over Ezra's, because he could have kept her in the end. He could have had him bring her out and then bring her back, but he didn't. He had Ahsoka come out, and he put her back where she was. So we know she's alive.
Right.
And she's no longer serving Anakin Darth Vader's story. Has another calling now. We don't know what it is, which Amanda may be onto something with that. But Ahsoka's out there, and she's not a Jedi, and she's off in another part of the galaxy doing something. And that's really amazing. Like he just totally did something really subversive, which is like say everything you expected I undid. And everybody thought Ezra had to die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not Jedi, but he did like the most Jedi thing ever, and he's not dead.
Yeah.
He's lost in space.
Well, and you know, in the round table that we got to talk to Dave, he made a point. I think he also says it in the Q&A at the end that he doesn't like the idea of so-and-so has to die because they're not in the original trilogy films. And I think that is a really good statement. And it made me think, because the whole time going into Rebels, I was like, well, they're all going to die. You know, and it was because of that. It was because of that very tunnel visioned thinking. And I'm learning more about storytelling from Dave Filoni than I've probably ever cared to learn about storytelling. And not because I'm not interested in it, but just he makes me interested in it. You know, he makes me care about the storytelling process. And I think that's a really amazing thing to be able to do with someone that just sort of takes stories for what they are. And I don't really analyze them, you know, the way that other people would. And so the fact that I'm learning so much about how stories can go, and that, you know, like you said, Tricia, about Ahsoka not serving Anakin's story anymore and being able to be all these other things, it's really cool to learn all that stuff and to say like, oh, okay. Like, you know, and I love Dave Filoni. Let's just put it like, he's an amazing storyteller.
Yes, he is. And I like that he throws little Easter eggs in there. So Megan Cullinan wrote, her comment was, guys, did Thrawn say Captain Paleon near the end? That's a nod to the original Thrawn trilogy if it was. And Megan, yes, he did. I caught that when I first saw it, and I was like, oh, yay, it's the Timothy Zahn books. So, you know, that tickled me. It's like, yay.
He also named Jason in acknowledgement to the Star Wars Expanded Universe fans, which is was nice to see too. When they first said the name, I'm like, Jason. Like Jason. Like
JAC. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of like, I was like, oh, dude. But it explains, that explains a lot of things. Just the whole, he kept telling us it's not going to be running up to Scarif. Like this is not going to run up to Rogue One, but it all makes sense because they have this victory on Lothal, and the story started on Lothal. It ends on Lothal. Ezra makes his sacrifice. And then essentially why people would go, well, why didn't the Empire come back? Well, Dave Filoni set it up so that it's literally sometime right before Scarif. So once they have their victory and the Empire, you know, they've shot everybody off the planet and had their own little kind of half a Death Star, I'll call it, explosion. Now Scarif's happening, and, you know, everything's happening that we know in the original trilogy. So the Emperor just didn't have enough time. He had already essentially pillaged this planet. So there was no reason him to go back there and take resources there just to fight to get it back.
Right.
So it all made sense in what we know. It's like, oh, okay. So, and then you get to see that beautiful epilogue with the beautiful kind of Wizard of Oz city back there in Sabine. Yeah. And it just was like, oh, they got a kind of a happily ever after. I mean, it's not perfect, but they got they got to rebuild their planet and hopefully do some cool things.
So good. Well, let's move on and talk about the end of Thrawn.
Before we do that, but can I read Sandra Choute's answer?
Oh, yeah,
response.
Go ahead.
So Sandra says, "Where's Ezra? Is the answer I want to know. I also want to dye my hair purple."
And cut it all off.
I thought that was awesome. Who else wants to dye their hair purple?
I do.
Oh, I've been wanting to since I was probably in high school, but that involves bleaching and some other things. And so, yeah, that'll never happen. So let's talk a little bit about Thrawn's end here. And I said to everybody, once Rebels was over, is when I would read the original Thrawn trilogy.
Oh.
But because I figured we'd know what happened to Thrawn. But here's the thing. We still don't know what happened to Thrawn. So technically, I don't have to read them yet.
So basically, when you read the Thrawn trilogy is when Tricia will read Harry Potter?
No. She'll probably read that before.
Okay, I'm just checking.
My favorite thing is that last season, Bendu told Thrawn what his ending was going to be. But he didn't say, I don't see your death. He said, I can see it's your defeat. Like many arms surrounding you in a cold embrace. And
it's so amazing. Yeah, it's so on point.
I was like, oh, when it started happening, I'm like, oh, this is what Bendu said. Oh my gosh.
Purgles.
He got purgled into hyperspace.
That's going to be my new thing. You've been purgled.
Wow.
I don't know when the right situation would be for me to say something like that, though.
When many arms are holding you in a cold embrace. Clearly.
Oh, okay. That happens every day.
So the thing I liked in all of this kind of Rebels thing is that it teaches us the language of Star Wars. If you go and look at all the things that we've learned in this, they all tie into things that have happened in the sequel trilogy in some way, just the way the characters exist or what's happening to them. They're just little things. But in the sequel trilogy, they've done a lot of, how would you say, destroying the family dynamic, the natural family. They created a found family in the sequel trilogy and in Rebels. But Ezra's family was still, his parents are dead, but his parents were together and intact. And we see that with Sabine's family too. And I kind of, it seems like in the storytelling of the sequel trilogy, they feel like in order to create drama in these characters' lives, they also need to tear down their parents or parental figures, uncle figures. And that ends up tearing down our original trilogy favorites in order to create drama in the lives of their lead characters. But for neither Sabine nor Ezra was it necessarily that their family had been destroyed. Ezra lost his parents. They died. It appears they were together, and Sabine's family is still working together. It's just Sabine that had a rift with her family. So I kind of want everyone who's creating films to go, look, you don't have to rip the families apart and say, oh, they're separated. Han and Leia separated in order for there to be terrible things happening in their children's lives. So it was just a thing that I noticed by the end, because Ezra's going back to his parents. They're together. And I thought, oh, that just, it makes it hurt even more. Like, he had a good thing and the Empire took it away. So it was just one of those things. It's like, oh yes, see, Disney, that you can make found families, but you don't have to destroy.
You don't have to kill off Nemo's mom or Bambi's mom. Is that what you're saying?
They did kill off Ezra's parents, but they didn't rip his family apart. Like, they didn't say, oh well, they have to be divorced or split or falling apart, which is everything. Luke's falling apart, Han and Leia were falling apart, everybody's falling apart. It like the forces at work in the galaxy are enough to mess you up. Is the point of Star Wars Rebels. So
yeah, well, they did have to kill Bambi's mom because that was in the story.
Yes,
that they bought.
Yeah, I mean, your parents can die, but I still think that if Han and Leia had been together in The Force Awakens, it would have hurt so much worse for Han.
I do
die.
too, and I actually. That's something I never really liked. It was the fact that Han and Leia had this rift between them because it just didn't seem natural.
Right.
And I mean, sure, they can go on their own separate missions like they do in that one book. Whose name I can't. Here we go. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And they can do their own thing, but like they can still be together. So I never really understood that. And I think for me, Kylo's plight would be so much more difficult. And Han's death would be so much more emotional and deep had it not been disjointed by the fact that they were like apart for some weird reason.
Their relationship was already dead.
Yeah,
Right.
they were mourning it by the time they talked to each other. They're like, yeah, remember when we were together and it was great? And I'm like, well, okay. So he's dead, but he really wasn't in her life anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's tragic, but I think it would have just been like, because when Ezra was reaching for his parents, I'm like, oh, you're just killing me. That choice was so hard. I was like, I was sobbing at that point. I was just like, oh, this is so sad because I know he's going to do the right thing. Like, Ezra. And I didn't like him at first. Don't tell
I hated Ezra. You can say it out loud. I hated that little blueberry like nobody's business.
Whoa.
We come to the end, and she knows. Jonah knows. I just was like, wow. But by the end, I told her at the screening, I said, I'm cool with him now. We're good. We're in a good place. It took 4 years, but we're there.
I didn't like Ahsoka at the beginning of the Clone Wars. I
didn't like her in the movie or in the first season.
Yeah. She's one of my favorite characters now, but at the beginning I was like, ooh, girl, she's just annoying. But I think that's, if you think about Luke and you look back on him as an adult, you're like, man, he's whiny. And then
Luke annoys me up until about the end of Empire. And then I'm not annoyed anymore. But in A New Hope, I'm just like, make him shut up. Make him just stop talking.
But I want to go to Sashi Station and pick up some power converters.
Exactly. Yeah. Whine some more, please.
But for kids, it's a totally relate like that behavior I saw Luke as an 8-year-old in New Hope. So he felt like that was just me because the kids, that's what we do. We whine. So that is relatable.
Yeah. And I feel like when I was a kid, he didn't annoy me, but now as an adult, he does.
So just be prepared. Every child will start out annoying in Star Wars and you'll like them at the end. So.
Except for Jason Syndulla. He's just cool. He's got green hair. He looks super happy. So after the screening was over and after we got to see the episodes, there was a Q&A that Amy Ratcliffe hosted with Dave Filoni and the cast. So the people that were there were Steve Bloom, Taylor Gray, Tia Sircar, and Vanessa Marshall. Am I skipping somebody? I don't think so.
And Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
And Dave. Yeah, Dave. And they were asking, Amy was asking all kinds of questions, and then there were questions from the audience as well. And our very own Richard Woloski got to ask a question.
I know a lot of people in here just because of Star Wars Rebels. So I gotta thank you so much for that. But the question I have is, are there any Easter eggs that we've missed over the last couple of years? Maybe a who jib? Another who jib?
I would have to say that you can go back. It sounds like creators says, just go back and watch it again. It's like so self-serving, but yeah, probably. And watch it again, and you'll see how things hook up in a different way. But there's never too many crazy Easter eggs. It's just so hard to produce it as it is. I don't get to drop a lot of things just indiscriminately in the background. Everything is so accounted for, so you can see how things hook up, and you can know now, like what Bendu's talking about when he talks to Thrawn. You can see now that Bendu had foreseen this outcome.
So, Hoojibs, now, if you watch the video here,
you can see Tia and Vanessa going, what's a Hoojib? What's a Hoojib? And Taylor's like, what is that? You can see them mouthing that. And Dave is answering the question. So I get my phone out. And I send a text to Vanessa that says a Hoojib is basically a space rabbit. And she sees it. I didn't know she'd get it or not, but I know she has an Apple Watch. So I see her turn her wrist and she's like, and I see her, she looks up and she knows where I'm sitting. She looks up and she's like, thanks. She mouths it to me. And then she shows Taylor her watch. And then Tia, is like, Teresa's here. I can see her mouth move and they're pointing and I'm like waving,
Oh, that's fun.
And they were like, oh, okay.
But actually, because Richard's question was the last one, Dave kind of continued on his own path. Like, Dave is awesome because you can ask him one question and he just goes. And he started talking about how he, really takes input from his wife and other people on the show that aren't necessarily white men. So let's have a listen to this.
And I have to say that, while we haven't had a female directing on animation yet, which, it's something that I'd like to remedy, my production staff is predominantly women. And anyone that tries to tell me that's not a creative job is out of their mind. They create in ways that I just can't, and I don't understand. I tell them I have an idea, and both Caroline, who produced, the last 2 seasons, and Athena Portillo, who produced Clone Wars with me, and Rebels, they are wizards. They are geniuses in every sense of the word at how they figure it out to make these impossible visuals happen in the time frame we have. They are so creative. And anybody that's working in the animation field or filmmaking, you are wrong not to value your production staff, your producers, because they will make your dream happen. I cannot understate the importance of all of them. They deserve a large amount of credit. So thank you to all of them.
So I thought that was interesting that Dave Filoni took this moment. He wasn't asked a particular question, but he knew that that's the conversation, that's going on online. And so he took that moment to address that.
Yeah. His team, they watch and interact and they know what the conversation, of everyone, I think he's the person who's listening in Lucasfilm, and he's the person who's listening and trying to absorb and do better. And everything has gotten better. You can only, that's the thing. Nobody's ever going to be in a point where you don't have some bias in your life. When people say, oh, I'm not whatever. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm not racist, not sexist, whatever. We all are that in some way. He acknowledges it and says, yes, I'm listening. So that's his way of, that was a point he wanted to make. It just didn't come up in any of the questions that he got asked. So he just did what he's done. I think, wasn't it the season 2?
He said something like that then.
That he went off and just went off on his own way. And for people who don't know, a lot of people do, the convor, that the bird that's his wife's name is Anne Convery. So they're, he's giving her an acknowledgement. She's in the story itself. So I think they should just hire her at Lucasfilm.
They should. So the thing about Dave Filoni is that I think he surrounds himself with good people, and he surrounds himself with people that have their pulse on what's going on in the outside world, and they inform him as needed. And I think that's so important.
I agree.
So my favorite part of the Q&A was Vanessa's reaction to the questions about how she was feeling.
Oh, baby. Yeah, you guys had always asked, about that relationship. I think it was pretty serious.
I think that's safely confirmed now.
Yes, now we have evidence, and I had no idea. Thank you.
And so you had the coda. What was it like to keep that, or did you record different versions?
No, yeah. First of all, I was shocked that Dave Filoni entrusted me with that information. Yeah, I mean, we were all like, Tia, really? Are you sure? So thank you for giving me a shot. And I did not tell a soul, which was very difficult. Especially because Taylor was like, okay, but you're going to tell me, right? And I was like, no, actually, I can't. Because I felt, obviously I knew I couldn't, but I was like, when you see it, it's going to blow your mind. So yes, it was very difficult, especially because right after we recorded our last episode all together, and then I stayed behind and recorded that, like sobbing. When I read that part, I was like, and then we all had a really nice dinner, like a big wrap party dinner directly after that. And I was like, I know things that I can't share for a year, or maybe not a year, but a very long time. So it's been tough, but I'm so happy that
you're the weight is off your shoulders. Yeah.
I don't know if it's from a Star Wars Insider interview or the interview we did with Vanessa, but at one point Vanessa had said that Tia knew how it all ended. That, yeah. And so this kind of gives that whole insight because they essentially had Tia stay and read this part. So the ending. So she was the only person, like, can you imagine, like, if it gets out, I'm like what did he say? Like, Dave Filoni said like 3 or 4 people who knew. And
they're going to know who leaked it.
Yeah. So every time she looked at Vanessa, she'd be like, oh, I know your fate. And, oh, I know your fate. And
so here's the really funny thing about the whole baby situation. I had this thought after the episodes where Kanan dies, where I said, you know what would be really cool is if they had a special hug and Hera was pregnant, but she didn't know. And then she finds out that she's pregnant and she has a baby with Kanan and she has a little piece of Kanan with her, you know, for the rest of her life, essentially. And then that part happens in the epilogue and I freaked out. I think I almost hit Patty because I was like, it happened. Oh my God. And I was just like, yes. I was so excited for Hera. Like, it was amazing. Oh, it was great.
Well, now you think about it and you think, did Kanan know as he was dying?
Oh my gosh. He might have.
Of course he did. He's a Jedi.
He did. He knew. He knew she had to live because she was going to continue his bloodline.
That's so fanficky and I love it.
Oh my.
It's all about the romance. Yay.
It's all about the romance. My favorite, as I said before, was just Taylor's whole reaction. And I think I can't do it credit, so I'll just let him take it away.
I have a question for Dave. They had a kid?
Yeah. People do that sometimes.
When a man and a woman like each other very much.
Taylor, do we have to teach about everything? I mean, Star Wars was tough, but...
Yeah, Taylor was pretty hilarious. And also, I mean, the Q&A kind of started out because as we were watching the credits for the ending of Star Wars Rebels, something popped up on screen and it was Chopper. And beside Chopper, it didn't say Chopper, it said Dave Filoni. So there was a huge gasp in the theater as people realized that that was on screen. And so that was the first thing that came up in the Q&A. So let's hear a little bit of Dave's response to that.
What made you decide it was time to give that secret away?
The show's over. So it was kind of then or never. I'll have you know, the celebration, a little tiny child, as usual, asked me.
Eliza!
Who played Chopper.
Eliza Peralta!
I absolutely told her the truth. And she never said anything. I think probably because it was disappointing. And she was like, you know, it's kind of like a Santa Claus thing. You're like, oh, really? No, it's not real, Tia. Don't look at me like that. You understand. Never mind.
Did you hire her?
Huh?
Did you hire her?
Who?
The little girl.
No.
Did she get the secret?
No, she just did. Oh. Kids are smart that way. They make promises and they keep it. You know, that's why they get Star Wars. They understand it.
Now, what's fun about this is, you know, we know Eliza Peralta, who was the little girl that Dave Filoni whispered that, you know, that too. And so we knew the secret keeper.
I think it would be great for him to get to see Eliza again and to know that it was her. And Eliza is like one of the best Star Wars kids ever. So she did a great job.
She did. And she joined us at Disneyland.
She did. She's an awesome kiddo.
Yeah.
With super stylish Star Wars clothes.
Yes. By her mom. So yeah, on Skywalking Through Neverland, we actually had to have Eliza on finally to reveal exactly what Dave Filoni had said, because in about 10 episodes that we had talked to her, she never revealed the truth. So and we also said that Eliza needs a new secret to keep. So Dave Filoni, it's time to tell Eliza a new secret.
Yeah, like what the next animated show is going to be. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll keep it.
Well, I think we should just remind everybody that we have that exclusive roundtable episode with a Q&A, and if you haven't checked it out, make sure to check that out as well.
Yeah, head to the Fangirls Going Rogue website, and also on that same post there will be the Q&A for everyone on YouTube. So like the Q&A that happened right after the Rebels episode that you heard sound bites of.
All right. Well, do we see this particular story continuing? I mean, I think they left it wide open for several different things to occur. We could have a show about Ahsoka and Sabine.
Woohoo! Which Donald Faison wants.
He really would like that. So that would be a really cool show. The adventures of Ahsoka and Sabine.
Well, I think it's interesting that, Ezra and Thrawn are who knows where, in wild space or wherever, and I would love to explore wild space in some kind of Star Wars Rebels something. I mean, not Star Wars Rebels, just in some kind of Star Wars show or something we can see. So like a show or a
Did y'all notice
movie.
that when Ezra makes his decision not to choose his parents, that he's confronted by those guards in red?
No, I know.
Yes.
It was
they looked very Praetorian Guard, not
it was like a BA Praetorian / Imperial Guard mashup thing, and I was like,
yeah, that was amazing.
So I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And I kept waiting for, like, I feel like because we get to do those questions that, I'm not going to raise my hand because we've already gotten to talk to Dave Filoni. So I'm like, I'm just going to, but I wanted to know, like, so what's up with those red guards? And I thought, well, somebody's going to ask that question, right? And nobody asked. I was like, darn.
Maybe we can get a Disney Junior show about porgs. Sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off, but it was just right there in the front of my head. Sorry.
So I was like, yeah, so what's going on? Thrawn's out there with Snoke. Maybe he decided, Emperor, he's old news. So I'm out there with Snoke doing my thing.
What if it's a show about the Red Guards and it's like their journey from being Imperial Guards to Praetorian Guards and how you become one?
Their journey to being hacked down by Kylo and Rey.
Exactly. It's like the opposite of the Handmaiden's Tale. Oh, but here's a question, and I would love to get both of your takes on it. If Ezra had opened that door and gone in to see his parents, what do you think would have happened?
He would have been trapped in a crystal ball.
Yeah, I don't think it would have turned out to be his parents. I think it would have just turned to dust, and then the Emperor would have been able to access the time loop chamber of Jedi.
Yeah, and it's the same thing he told to Padme, which is, I'll give you the power to save Padme, and then he's choking her to death. So it's, okay.
Oh, yeah. What if he had gone through there and then he ended up killing his own parents?
Ugh.
Ooh, that's dark.
That is.
Somebody needs to stop me from coming up with story ideas.
I think we're going to get some stuff down the road, but we're not going to get it right away.
Yeah.
And that story that's coming soon, an announcement, will be the adventures of baby Jason Syndulla and how he was born.
Exactly. Well, I do want to say that fans are having lots of fun with Jason Syndulla. And I know there's a couple people who, I think Vanessa Marshall is going to be at a convention coming up, and some people are planning on bringing baby shower gifts for her. Which I think is awesome.
Oh my God.
Right?
I need to mail her something. That's a fantastic idea. What do you give somebody for that kind of thing?
Maybe something that's green.
I'm going to come up with a really cool idea.
Okay. Also, I want to mention that Rick Peralta, who is the father of the secret keeper, Eliza, he started a fundraiser for the Starlight Children's Foundation. And what's funny, it's a charity baby shower for Jason Syndulla. And he wants to raise $1138.
That's awesome.
So I think that's so cute. So you can head to Facebook and search charity baby shower for Jason, Jacen, and I'm sure it'll pop right up. But it's very cute. $75 has been raised of $1138, and all proceeds will go to the Starlight Children's Foundation, which is an amazing charity.
All right. It is time for the character discussion. Roll it, Rob Dellinger.
Sidious, Anakin, Luke and Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, C.O. Bibble, Kylo Ren, Salacious Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, Amidala, Wicket, R2-D2, BB-8, I can barely keep it straight. It's a character discussion. It's the Fangirls on Character. It's a character discussion.
All right, so for this character discussion, we are doing a Star Wars Harry Potter mash up, and I am so excited about it.
Me too. Trisha, are you excited about it?
I'm gonna try, is what she's thinking. So on Twitter yesterday, as we record this, there was some threads going around about what if we sorted our favorite Harry Potter characters, wrong way. And we sorted our favorite Star Wars characters into their Hogwarts houses. And so I put this up on our Fangirls Going Rogue Facebook page because I was like really curious what people would think. And then I thought, you know what? Heck, let's do that on the show. Mm-hmm. So to give people a very brief introduction on the houses of Harry Potter, there are 4. And this is how we're going to be sort of categorizing our Star Wars characters. Where would we put them if we had to choose? If they were going to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where would they go based on their character traits? So Gryffindors, they typically value bravery, daring, nerve, and chivalry. And some famous Gryffindors would be Harry Potter, obviously, and Albus Dumbledore, who most of you have probably heard of. Hufflepuffs, Badger Pride. I happen to be a Hufflepuff. We value hard work, dedication, patience, loyalty, and fair play. And some famous Hufflepuffs are like Newt Scamander from the new Fantastic Beasts movies, and Cedric Diggory, who is another famous character from the Harry Potter universe.
And also a vampire.
He's also a vampire. Yes. Well, Cedric Diggory is not a vampire.
I know. The actor.
The guy that plays him is a vampire. All right. So Ravenclaws. Ravenclaws typically value intelligence, knowledge, and wit. And some famous Ravenclaws are Gilderoy Lockhart and Garrick Ollivander. Ollivander is actually a wand maker in the world of Harry Potter. Also, Luna Lovegood is a very famous Ravenclaw.
That's right. And Ravenclaws, pretty much they're like the head of the class, basically. Or the what is it, valedictorian?
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah. Generally speaking, unless you're Hermione and you're weird.
Exactly.
And then Slytherins, they are typically what I consider a misunderstood house because their values are ambition, cunning, resourcefulness. But they get a bad name because a lot of sort of negative and villainy type people come from Slytherin house, but not all of them. And I just like to put that out there. So some famous Slytherins would be like Merlin, Voldemort, Dolores Umbridge. So with all that in mind, Trisha, are you with us?
I just want to know, what do you think you guys are personally?
Oh, I'm a total Hufflepuff. I'm a complete, total, solid Hufflepuff. And I had to come to grips with this because on Pottermore.com you can get sorted. And I always thought I was a Ravenclaw. And then I got sorted into Hufflepuff and I was adamantly mad about it for about a day. And then I sat there and I looked at it and I said, no, you're probably a Hufflepuff.
And Sarah?
Okay, so I want to be a Gryffindor. Because for one thing, their colors are red and gold, which are the best colors. And everyone who I like in the Harry Potter series is a Gryffindor. But when I was sorted on Pottermore, I was sorted into Slytherin, which I don't really agree with. And if I really think I had to choose, true to my heart, I think maybe I'm a Ravenclaw. But I don't know.
I can see that. I can see a Slytherin for you.
Really?
Yeah. You're super ambitious. You're incredibly resourceful. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, like all the crafty stuff you can do. That's like huge resourcefulness. Like you got into this job, of the thing that you do, and you get to use all of your skills doing it, and you get to use that whole side of you. And I really do think, you do fit Slytherin, but a lot of people are cross houses.
Right.
So you very could well be like a Slitherclaw. I'm actually I've been sorted by Pottermore into my mush house, and I'm a Griffin Puff.
Okay, nice.
So, which I didn't expect. I expected myself to be a Ravenpuff, not a Griffin puff, but, whatever.
Any puff is a good puff.
Tricia,
what's Hermione?
Hermione's a Gryffindor.
Okay.
Because even though she's super, super book smart, she's incredibly brave, and she as the series goes on, she stops being so by the book. She stops being so Ravenclaw.
Her Gryffindor tendencies come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, Tricia, you are probably a Slitherclaw. I think you're a mush. But if you had to pick one, I think you'd get sorted into Ravenclaw. Mm-hmm.
I'll take blue. Blue's my dookie colors.
Blue. All right. So enough about us.
Yes.
Let's sort some of these characters. You guys can pick ones that you like. We'll see what everybody thinks. I did highlight a few on our list here.
I'm going to read somebody else's tweet that did this on Twitter. So can I do that?
Yeah.
So what do you guys think Ray is? I'm going to see if you guys agree with Knight of M. Because it was Swara from Beltway Banthas who's been leading a lot of the Twitter discussion on it. And so she responded to him. So I want to see what you guys say.
Well, okay. So she's very resourceful. Now that I know resourcefulness is like Slytherin, then it makes more sense that she's Slytherin because she kind of had to be. She had to survive. So she had to be cunning and resourceful to survive in such a horrible climate as Jakku all by herself.
Ooh, Slytherin. What did you say, Teresa?
I actually said Ray was a Gryffindor, mainly because I feel like she charges headfirst into things like a lot of Gryffindors do without really thinking about stuff first because they just want to do the right thing. And they don't really stop to think about what the right thing is before they start doing it in a lot of cases. She has a lot of nerve to do some of the things that she did, to go and find Luke and do all that. I can see the resourcefulness part of her. I tend to, if I pick one house, I pick Gryffindor. If I pick two, I say Slytherin.
No, she's a Grifferin.
Grifferin.
Well, that's what Knight of M said, at Knight of M on Twitter, said that she was a Gryffindor. So, because she does things that Luke tells her not to do.
That's what a lot of Gryffindors do. They do exactly the opposite of what people say.
Nice.
Well, I guess they're courageous, right?
They're very to a fault.
Yes. Would that make Poe a Gryffindor then? I would think so.
I think Poe definitely has major Gryffindor qualities. Mm-hmm. I think he is going to change going into episode 9. I think his house will change because we see him at the end of episode 8 starting to be a little bit more smart about things.
Right.
And more of a leader. So, but I can see Gryffindor for Poe as well. Big time.
Okay.
So what about Leia? Leia has been a much discussed question of where she would fit. I am firmly in the camp of that Leia is a Slytherin.
Now, I saw you teasing this online, so I want to hear why.
I feel like Leia is super ambitious. I feel like she's super resourceful. She knows how to get her way through the Senate and play politics. And I feel like somebody who can do that definitely is a Slytherin. She's very cunning. She knows how to manipulate people and to do the things that she needs to do and say the things she needs to say to get what she wants. That doesn't take away from her being very smart and being, super intelligent and witty and all that stuff. She definitely has some of those Ravenclaw qualities, but I think she is a Slytherin.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Now that you explain it.
Does Leia have ambition? I'm just asking because I'm the Harry Potter uninitiated. Like, I never saw Leia as ambitious. She was just doing what she needed to do.
Well, I think she does in Bloodline. I think she's really ambitious there, but she's selfless in a sense. She's selflessly ambitious. She doesn't want to necessarily be the center of attention like some Slytherins do, Draco Malfoy. But she knows what needs to be done. She's more of that kind of ambitious, She always ends up being like the lead of stuff.
Right. Well, interesting because a lot of Hufflepuff qualities, hard work, dedication, patience, loyalty. I mean, that could almost describe Leia right there.
So I know, Sarah, you asked about Han on our Facebook group, and I think everybody was in agreement. There was no argument here. He is a hardcore Hufflepuff. Maybe not the fair play aspect of it, but definitely the loyalty and the hard work.
I would think so. Certainly Chewie is.
So Chewie's a Hufflepuff too?
I would definitely say so.
I think so. Chewie's a Hufflepuff too.
I mean, his big thing is loyalty.
See, and it's like not saying Hufflepuffs, it's not like saying they're not smart or anything. They have like a lot of the qualities from all the different houses. They just, they value these like patience and loyalty and hard work. Like, okay, Kylo.
Let's see.
I keep putting Kylo in Ravenclaw. I keep sticking him in Ravenclaw. Mainly because I feel like he is super smart. He knows what he's doing. He's playing Rey. We don't know that, but that's what I really think he's doing. I think he does have some Slytherin qualities because I think most of his bloodline is Slytherin. And we haven't talked about Luke yet, but I think most of his bloodline is Slytherin. So he would probably get sorted into Slytherin by default since family members tend to be in the same house. But I still see him as a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, well, he has cunning, but then he's also, at the same time, he's able to be swayed in things. So he's definitely not a Hufflepuff, I would say.
No, and Ravenclaws do tend to they're one of those houses that could be split on what side they stand on a conflict. Whereas Hufflepuffs, like, typically completely side with Gryffindors. I mean, they're like, all right, we're all going at it together.
Right.
Tricia?
I don't think I know enough about Kylo in general.
That's also true. We don't.
I do think he's very intelligent, but he comes by that naturally from both his parents. So, I mean, both Han and Leia are really smart. So, what are his other characteristics? Because I feel like anybody who's a player in Star Wars has to just be smart. Like, you don't have stupid people. There's no idiot ball going on. It's kind of just like presumed, that person can figure this out. Luke can figure out the X-Wing when he gets in it. Han can figure out the shuttle. So everybody's smart. So then it's, what are the other things?
Right.
So, okay, what's Anakin Skywalker?
He's a Slytherin too.
He's a Slytherin.
I think
so. Yeah, he wants to be a Jedi. He wants to get as high as he can. And once he
uses any resource he has. Palpatine puts him in the Jedi Council, like he says, and he gets him there, and he takes it and he uses it. And he has his meetings with Palpatine and like all this stuff.
Yeah,
I think Anakin is a Slytherin. I think he's also easily influenced, but I don't know really what house that would be under. Although a lot of people in Slytherin are easily influenced. I mean, Dolores Umbridge is easily influenced by the Minister of Magic. I mean, she believes whatever doctrine is given to her. So, if the minister says that Voldemort's not back, she's like, well, he's not back,
Right.
So, and that's completely coming out of the books. Sorry, Tricia, but it's just like, I feel like he's a Slytherin.
I can see that. What about Ahsoka?
Yeah, see, that one's hard. Somebody brought that up, and I
know.
Ahsoka is super hard for me because I feel like she's a Griff Claw.
Well, she's definitely brave. I mean,
super loyal.
Yeah.
And dedicated to whatever it is that she's doing.
Wow. And super intelligent.
And she's incredibly knowledgeable about things.
Yeah, you're
well,
right.
Just looking at it, I'm just going to look at a storyteller because I'm looking at who the characters are and what they come out. It seems like the Gryffindor tends to be is going to be the hero of the story because they have the most to learn and change from. So, I mean, the bravery and daring, and I mean, she just would always do crazy stuff and stick up for people. Chivalry is kind of hard because it's like, oh, are you being chivalrous because you're taking care of the girl? No, it's really just about taking care of everyone. So that's where I put her.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, I'd stick her in Gryffindor.
Me too.
All right, so I want to talk about some of our Rebels characters here really quickly. Kanan, Gryffindor. I feel like that's obvious. Exactly, like that moment at the end. He's incredibly chivalrous. He's like, all of you need to get away so that you don't die, so that I die. Like that kind of thing.
So that Jason can live.
Yeah, exactly. So that Jason can live. Sabine is an interesting one for me because I feel like she's got a lot of these qualities, but if I had to pick one, I say Ravenclaw.
Yeah, I was leaning toward Ravenclaw too.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes!
Okay. I feel so accomplished.
Okay, well, Tricia, what do you think Hera is?
Oh, Hufflepuff.
Me too.
I was gonna say that too.
Oh, see? I think Tricia learned something.
Learning something, and I didn't even have to read the books.
Okay, what about Ezra? I stick Ezra in Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah. Once he gets on the team, he's very dedicated and loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And once, well, he can be swayed too. See Maul, but
see Maul.
What's Maul?
Oh, see, and I didn't put any villains on here. I went all good guys.
Would he be Slytherin? Because I mean, he had to be incredibly resourceful to survive
and turn into a spider.
And then cunning, of course.
Yeah, Maul's a Slytherin.
I would think
maybe he's, what was his upper half and what was his lower half? he got split into two houses.
Well, none of them's a Hufflepuff then.
That's true.
Up.
Poor
Maul.
Poor Maul. Okay, what about Zeb? I think most people have said Zeb is a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I would see that.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing. Someone brought up in our Facebook group about the droids. Are they sorted into houses, or are they the animal that you can bring to school? So when you come to Hogwarts, you can bring a cat, an owl, or a toad. Those are your options.
Yeah.
So are the droids the animals, or are they sorted into houses? I can totally see them being the animals.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you know what? Okay, they're the animals because owls are messengers. Droids are messengers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but not all of them. See, I think R2 is an owl.
Right.
I think R2 is an owl. I think BB-8. Chopper's a cat.
Yes.
And I think C-3PO is the toad.
You know, it's kind of funny. I never thought about this, but you can't bring dogs to Hogwarts.
You cannot bring dogs to Hogwarts. Unless your name is Snuffles. Otherwise, you can't come.
We didn't get to talk about this, and now I'm going to have to ask you guys.
Okay.
Tell me what you think about the Loth Wolves.
Oh, what house do they go in, or just what do we think about them?
She wants us to say them.
Yes, I want you to say Loth.
You mean the Loth Wolves? The Loth?
You mean
the
Loth Wolves?
What about those woofs?
What about the woofs? I like the woofs.
Well,
they're awesome.
You can't bring the woofs because they'll eat you, like they eat the stormtroopers.
So the Loth Wolves get kept in the Forbidden Forest.
Yeah, the Loth Wolves they're in the Forbidden Forest and you can't go there.
And Loth Wolves, the Loth Wolves are like the
they're like Aragog.
Yeah, no. I say they're like
tarantulas.
No. They're the flying creature
the Thestrals.
Hippogriff. Or the Thestrals. But I think they're the Hippogriff because you have to like show them deference and then they can take you places when they like you. So
that's true, but Thestrals can only be seen by people who have seen death or are connected to something.
Okay.
So
they're a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of both, and unicorns.
Yeah. Don't drink the blood of a Loth Wolf.
Ew. No.
It'll cut your life in half. You'll have a half-life.
That was why Chopper didn't originally he wasn't going to get to go with everybody on the trip. And then he was like, what about me?
Oh, yeah.
That Wolf's like, I guess I'll carry you.
Oh.
Okay, come on.
All right. Well, I think we've thoroughly covered this here. If you guys have any thoughts on what houses your favorite Star Wars characters should be in, let us know. You can contact us via email, which is contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com. Well, I guess that brings us to the end of another exciting episode. I love the mashups. Mashups are fun.
Yes.
The best. Next time on Fangirls Going Rogue, Star Wars characters as pony characters. I'm just kidding. Nobody else is going to do that with me. I'll have to do it by myself. In the meantime, you can find us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com. You can find us on Twitter. We are at FGGoingRogue. Tricia is at Fangirl Cantina. I am at Ice Cold Penguin. Sarah is at Jedi Tink. And our social media manager, Sandra, is at Geek Chic 9.
You can email us, contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com, and tell us all the people you thought were in what house, because we certainly haven't considered everything. We were just on the fly. You could talk about it on Facebook, Fangirls Going Rogue. Just type that in. Tumblr, let's see, there's lots of Rebel stuff going on right now, and lots of stuff from, now we have GIFs from The Last Jedi. So check that out, fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com.
And on Instagram, we are at FGGoingRogue. Make sure to head over there. And if you want to participate in some of these discussions that we have in our Fangirls Going Rogue Facebook group, please head over to Facebook and search Fangirls Going Rogue Facebook group. You can request to join, and then you must answer questions to get in. And if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can do that at 331-21-EWOKS. And make sure to head over to our YouTube channel and watch this episode if you'd rather do that over YouTube.
And please go to iTunes and leave a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews to keep more people coming and seeing our wonderful show.
That's right. So, until next time, da-da-da-da-da, yub,
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 yub.
So, Tricia.
Yes, ma'am.
You are going to need to explain inclusion writer when we get there.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they
have green hair?
We need to discuss this. How does the breeding of a human and a Twi'lek work? And sometimes, in the Clone Wars, you have some Twi'lek babies that are half human, half Twi'lek, and some of them, they look like Twi'leks in the Clone Wars. So is it just a pungent square thing, with the XY chromosomes or something, and for some the Twi'lek gene takes over or whatever? And then if not, do they automatically get the color hair of the Twi'lek that, what color they were? So is his hair green because hair is green? I don't understand. I have a lot of questions about the breeding.
Talk to Dave Filoni about this stuff. How does this work? It's a kid's show.
Well, and I think the key thing about, hang on a second, pulse on what's going on outside. And I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. Well, see, I have the same questions about Cars, because I thought surely the next Cars movie that Lightning and Sally would have a baby car. But how do cars get baby cars? Do they go and buy a baby car and then it grows into a big car? Or do they buy a big car and then it, just how does that work? Wait, seriously? What are you driving? What are you driving?
It's like a monster truck or something.
Jeez.
No.
I do. I think about reproduction.
Wow.
It works. I have no idea. I hope it's gone. I thought it left 3 times. Okay.
That was a car having a baby.
Wow. Until next time, keep on sorting into houses. No, that sounds stupid. Until next time, Now, wait a minute. This makes me think. Our outro. Where should Ewoks go?
Oh, but is it as a species or is it an individual? Because I feel like Wicket is a Hufflepuff.
Okay. Yeah, I think we need to do individuals because Ewoks are like, they're very individualistic. So
that's true.
I think we'll have to just stick with Wicket at this point.
Yeah, he's a Hufflepuff. Total puff.
Yeah.
What about Porgs?
Oh, I don't know.
Discussions for another time.
Okay,
tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Tell us we want to know what you think.
What does the porg say?
Have you
Sorry, Tricia.
Of Daisy Ridley bonking the one porg with.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yes.